Well, Brian, it's been quite an opening weekend of the Premier League season, and we got a decent game to finish it off. Spurs won, Manchester City 0, champions beaten. What did Spurs do so well?
Well, they played very well. They were very organised and disciplined, and I think they stood up to the occasion. The first match of the season, the ground full, not having played in front of crowds for so long. They responded really well to the challenge. Manchester City, very, very difficult team to play against, of so much quality, so much movement, rotation of positions, individual excellence on the ball. But they handled it very well, and right across the back four, they were concentrated. They matched their men. There was a lot of good communication. I thought the back four got good cover from the midfield. They had to adapt early on. I think Alli was initially going to play a little bit more advanced, but ended up going to the left of the three in midfield. Højbjerg was outstanding. Young Oliver Skip played very, very well indeed. And then the front three were always a handful, and exploiting the spaces that Manchester City were giving them when they attacked. But Manchester City didn't play well with their standards, Nathan. Gave the ball away very loosely, quite frequently, and in the sort of positions where you would have expected them to retain possession and made chances, they didn't. And on the transition, as the phrase is used nowadays, Spurs were always a threat and got their reward with that great goal. What was it, 54 minutes into the second half? But really good performance, hard work, and the manager said that needed hard work, graft. But also they were very disciplined. I mean, I know there was some aggressive tackling, but they didn't give free kicks away in really dangerous positions. They didn't give away a penalty. Had to be careful with, the likes of Mahrez and Jack Grealish, Sterling running with the ball, running at you in the penalty area. They timed their tackles brilliantly and survived well until they got the goal and gave them something to hold on to, and they went from there.
It is only the opening day of the season, so we should attach a health warning, I guess, to everything. But Tottenham last season was basically the Son and Kane show with some nice cameos from Gareth Bale along the way. Today did give a lot of players an opportunity, Nuno. So we saw Tanganga play at right back. So Oliver Skip, who you mentioned, come in the middle of midfield. Lucas Moura, Stephen Bergwijn were sort of bit part players. One of them would play, or they'd come off the bench for 20 minutes. And Dele Alli, through form, fitness, and Mourinho not wanting him, we rarely saw. They all, it felt, stepped up to the mark. And if they could keep to that level, maybe we look at Tottenham's ambitions this season in a very different way.
Yeah, but there's not been much talk about Tottenham other than was Harry Kane coming or going. I said this during the commentary and before the game to Joe. All the talk was about, Harry Kane leaving Tottenham. There was no discussion about the players that are still there. And I looked at their squad in the last couple of days and said, well, Alderweireld is gone. That's a bit of a disappointment. But he wasn't as good last year as he'd been in previous seasons anyway. He lost a little bit of pace. Vertonghen, his mate, had gone the previous season. They've been the outstanding centre-half partnership for years. The right-back position hasn't been very good for them with Aurier. Matt Doherty was in and out last year. Aurier is definitely unreliable. Lloris at times hasn't been great. Midfield area has been, I would say, weak and brittle at times against the better teams.
That's going back a decade probably since
Modric
left.
Yes. But I'm only comparing it last year to today. Does today fix all of those things? No. But looking at the pre-season build-up, seemed to be no positivity about Spurs. The fact that Son had re-signed a 4-year deal, and that none of the other players who maybe have real quality but hadn't got the chance. The ones that you mentioned, Moura didn't play often enough. Lamela has moved on, which I don't think was a bad thing, because too often he played and didn't deliver. So today you saw Moura probably playing one of his best games ever for Spurs, and certainly Stephen Bergwijn had a very good game today and was a threat. Interesting that Chip starts. He got a bit of a go a couple of seasons ago. I think when Pochettino was there, he played about 7 league games last year out at loan Norwich, and that stood to him, played almost every game for Norwich. So the manager's decided he's ready now. In there with Højbjerg, big game for him to start. Tanganga has looked promising in the past. Sanchez has too, but they're all in today, and others like no sign of Winks, Sissoko, who were often regulars in the past, and Dembele wasn't even on the bench. I think he has an injury. Other centre halves that have been used weren't there today, or weren't used. Romero comes in, so maybe Spurs supporters will feel a bit more hopeful. It's a big 3 points for them. It's a nice start, but I don't think they'll be losing the head in any way and saying, we'll be challengers for the league this year. That's not reasonable for them.
What about Dele Alli? Still only 25. The position he played in today, where he was a bit deeper at times, he was very aggressive, particularly in that second half. I think back when we used to go to the old White Hart Lane, and he was always a strange player in that he might have half an hour at the start of the game and you wouldn't even notice he was playing, and next thing he'd have 2 goals before half time. He had that bit of X factor that he could just turn it on. It hasn't happened for him. He wasn't even in contention for the England squad this summer. Do you look at him and think, if the attitude is right, that everything is still there for him to be a big player? Yeah,
I think back on those times you're talking about, and I can remember a discussion about will he go to Real Madrid. He was been so good for Spurs. That discussion was, will he re-sign, or will Spurs cash in because they bought him so cheaply from MK Dons? But in the last, I'd say it's gone on now for about 3 seasons. The last 2 seasons have been very unusual time in the game for everybody. They've been difficult times for managers, players, supporters of the game. Very, very awkward during the pandemic. The last time we were at a game live, I think, was the 8th of March, a year and a half ago. And since then, for players, they've been living in the bubble, trying to avoid getting the virus. Lots of players have had it. Clubs have had it rampant within the squads, within the staff. They've been trying to deal with that, trying to deal with not being able to train as a group at times. So it's been very, and for that reason, it being such an awkward time, I've been slow to really be critical of either players or managers or teams about results. But I think we've got a much more natural game now, and I think the chances there for Dele Alli under a new manager, a fresh start, to re-establish himself. But he's got to do the business like today and be a team player and not just be a floaty player playing around off the front, doing what you like. Look, if you asked most blokes who play football what position they'd like to play in, I'd say they'd like to play as a number 10 off the front, not have any defensive responsibility, and what I'd say is kind of flute about doing their own thing, and when they get on the ball, maybe do something flashy and try and score a goal. But the game now requires much more from every player. You can't have that type of player. They've all got to work with him, and it would be interesting to see how Messi is under Pochettino with PSG. Will they be able to cope with him not doing an awful lot when they don't have the ball? So Dele Alli has got to be a disciplined midfield player when his team don't have possession. We saw it from Bergwijn Moura today when Spurs were out of possession, dropping back in and making the team compact, and he's got to do that as well as showing the bit of magic and quality he has when he's on the ball. New start for him, plays in the first game, will probably start the next game. He's got to go on from there. Didn't score a goal last year. One of his best assets in the past was as a goal scorer, playing not as the main front man, but coming from deep and late from midfield or just behind the striker. Get back to that and he can be that player again.
I know you'll say he's not underappreciated by Spurs fans, but Heung-min Son is somebody who, because of Harry Kane, is always just slightly in the background. You mentioned it in commentary. Heung-min Son is a world-class player now. He is right up there among the very best in the Premier League, and showed it again today in a very different position to what he's been playing over the last few seasons.
Well, he's played in that position when Harry Kane's been out before. I think in 7-day matches Harry Kane missed in the last 3 seasons, Son has been the one that's led the line in those matches. I mean, they've had Vinicius as well, but I think Son has generally played in there when Harry's been out, and he's done it very well. I think they won 5 of those matches that Harry didn't play, and one of them was against Manchester City too. But I've always valued him. I've always admired him. I admire his demeanour, first of all, because he always plays with a smile on his face. I know that phrase is out there, but genuinely he does. You always see him, he's always smiling to people, smiling after the game. He looks like a very courteous fella. I'd say he's a great fella around the club, but his work rate and his honesty to scrap for the team when they haven't got the ball. And then his invention when he's out in the wide positions, cutting inside. How often do we see that pass over the top for Harry Kane to put him in to score? Today, drifting out to the right and getting that brilliant goal. Had one or two other little chances in the match as well. But he's a superb player, and I'm sure Spurs fans and Spurs management and Daniel Levy, of course, were delighted that he signed that. If Harry Kane goes, can he sustain it as the main man, as the main centre forward? It'll be interesting to see. But 17 goals last year was fair goal scoring from the wide position. If he was playing the central position as the main man for a full season, he could probably match that, and maybe even match some of Harry Kane's totals. 23 last year, I think Harry Kane got
top scorer.
Yeah.
We almost went 10 minutes without mentioning Harry Kane. The reports in the paper this morning were that Daniel Levy said, it's only 2 weeks left, you've left it too late, Manchester City, we wouldn't be able to sign a replacement. It's out of Nuno's hands one way or another, I'm sure. Like, Kane didn't play today, they said he wasn't fit yet. Every other player in the England squad managed to play at some stage over the weekend. If you were to somehow try and call it now, does he stay, does he go, and how important is he for both teams and how their seasons pan out?
Well, look, his importance to Spurs has been obvious. He's been the main man. We just spent a little bit of time discussing Son, but Harry Kane's goals, it doesn't mean Spurs won't go score goals. We saw today. Well, I often see this happen with clubs. They sell the most valued player and you say, well, that's the end of them. They'll never score. Other people come along. Other players emerge. And maybe, you know, from under the shadow of Harry Kane, if he did go, Lucas Moura, Bergwijn or Son will be a 20 goal a season merchant, or maybe one of them will get 15, the other get 10, and it solves it. But he's been such a great player. From Manchester City's point of view, so Spurs, yes, they need him, but Spurs haven't won a trophy anyway, even all the time he's been there. So it's kept them up in the table. Yes, they've been in the Champions League and they got to the Champions League final, and he was crucial to that. Of course they would miss him. Would they spend the money wisely if they ended up getting 150 million for him? That would be the question. It's hard to replace him. Strikers are a premium. Lukaku, everybody, you know, there wasn't many clubs that could afford Lukaku, but you see how valuable he was, that he was needed. There's not many in that category. Lewandowski, you know, after that, who's the next one? Like you see Inter replacing Lukaku with Dzeko, because Dzeko was on the record as a goal scorer, and he continued it from Manchester City to Roma. He continued. He's 35 and they're buying him because they're so scarce, those guys, that you can rely on to score goals. So Spurs need him, but Manchester City need a centre forward. Aguero has gone to Barcelona. They need a centre forward. So they, like, whether they wouldn't be breaking the bank to get Harry Kane. It's just another fee for them. I heard Pep saying today that they took in 60 million in transfer fees and they only spent...
Jack Grealish only cost 40 million.
40. I mean, Japers, I don't think that maths would stand up in the Financial Times, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, City would have the money, I think, but they probably don't want to go there. I think Levy might have the upper hand at the moment, Daniel Levy.
Yeah, like that Manchester City performance, it felt like we saw a lot of that last season. That it was grand. They had good possession at times, a lot of nice little interchanges, but in the final third or final 20 yards in and around the penalty area, just a complete lack of a cutting edge. Yeah,
but they weren't beating teams by as much as they used to beat them last year, but they were still outstanding. I mean, they lost 6 matches overall. They had a bad period, I think, around October, November time. I said in the commentary that they dropped 12 points from the first 24 last year. It was unusual for them. They lost a couple of matches near the end after they had League One, but in that kind of middle section up until the last few matches, they were outstanding, and they won the matches easily, and they were combining it with the Champions League run, which was more important to them than the Premier League in many ways, and they combined those really, really well until the final of the Champions League. They won the League Cup. They blew the cup itself. They lost the cup to Leicester. But I I agree with you. At times there was a lot of great build-up play and no end product. I wouldn't say there was no end product. Maybe they didn't score as many goals as they used in the past when they beat teams 4 and 5 and 6. But yes, I think it does make it more. It's hard to get away all the time without having that clinical, ruthless centre forward, and maybe one that has a bit more physicality than either Aguero or Jesus had, or Fernand Torres, who played there today. I think they need someone of a bit of substance, and that's why they're anxious to get Harry Kane, and why Chelsea were quite anxious to take Lukaku.
It's been a brilliant opening weekend, right from Friday night, and like the scenes at Brentford and the tears of the supporters have been back and been able to see their team play in the Premier League, to Manchester United and Bruno Fernandes and how the attacking football and the style they played with Fernandes and Pogba. Chelsea back it up, Liverpool back it up. What really stood out for you then over the first weekend?
Other than today, look, it's a bit of the fairy tale. I loved the Brentford one. I didn't watch the match actually because I went into Cork to watch Pats beating Waterford, and I was quite happy coming home from that. But I came back to see the end of the Brentford celebrations and the manager walking around the pitch, conducting the crowd, singing. That was lovely. That was really lovely. He seems like a sound guy. And it's a nice story. A bit sad for Arsenal on the first day to lose like that. And once again, the manager looked annoyed and frustrated with what he had seen. We saw that often last year, where he's looking into the distance, answering the question, a bit like me now, talking about how they hadn't performed and where the deficiencies were in the team. So, but what I think Manchester United yesterday were brilliant. The second half, the games, we loved covering Leeds last year. Everybody loved watching Leeds. Their game, the style of their game, the outrageousness of their attacking play at times, the changing positions, the flexibility of the team, brilliant goals, concessions of goals, high scoring matches. We loved them, and I didn't think we could have another match like that again as they had with Manchester United last year. It was a 6-2 last year. And when they equalised yesterday, I said, oh right, Leeds are right, but this could be Manchester United. Now here's the test. Are they all going out of Old Trafford moaning today, having been buoyant in the first half when they were playing so well at times, some beautiful, and then have that spell where Pogba, Greenwood, sensational goal, the combination play in the attacking part of the pitch, Fernandes, brilliant goals, 3 hat-trick. I think that was the outstanding performance. Liverpool won comfortably, played very well without having their best team on the pitch. Shouldn't be dismissed by any means, but lots of great football. West Ham, brilliant win at Newcastle, 4-2. They've not always been... Look at, I think about West Ham. I think last year they were one of the few clubs that it suited them to have no crowd at their home matches. I think they were the better of it last year, because they're a moany crowd in that stadium. We've been there ourselves, and we've seen what they can be like when it's not going well. So they had a great season last year, really good season. And now I think they'll be coming home match next week after that win away. And I would hope that the West Ham supporters will get behind Dave Moyes, because he's done a superb job over last year, and getting 4 goals away today to win the match in the style they did was a great start for them. So lots of good things. Leicester, good, nice sneaky win for them again. Don't forget about them.
Answer me this to finish up, then I'll put you on the spot. If you're a manager, which attacking team would you prefer, Manchester United or Manchester City, with the options that are there?
I think Manchester United at the moment, their attacking part of their team is really, the potential that's there is massive. No, Martial came on briefly at the end of the match yesterday. Rashford doesn't play, but still an overall team at the moment, I think Manchester City have the better team. I think they've got a better goalkeeper. I think that we've got to wait and see how Varane fits in at Manchester United. There was a couple of reasons why he's still not at Real Madrid. One of them is that he wasn't playing great. He looked vulnerable at times last year and lacking a bit of pace at times. So they didn't go out on a limb. I know they have a money problem, but they didn't go out on a limb to make sure he stayed. So we have to see how he settles into English football, where Real Madrid are usually dominating matches, except for about 4 or 5 matches a season. They're on top, and it's about playing round in the back and looking nice and being on your guard, and it's 2 against 1 at the back. It won't be the same in the Premier League. You'll have lots to think about. So let's see where that one goes. Lindelof, I thought, had an excellent game yesterday, by the way. I've never been a big critic of his by any means. But but I think Manchester City have the better team. But Manchester United have the better attacking setup, I think.
The libel laws in this country are very strict, so be careful on this. When you're talking about number 10s who like fluting about, who comes to mind?
There used to be a lot of them, and I used to look at them and go, he'd do my head in. I like fellas that work for the team when they haven't got the ball. So no, I won't be specific, but you know what I mean, Nathan. Fellas who are there and the team lose possession, they hang around and they wait on it. We used to call it hatching years ago. Blokes that just waited around for the ball. The ball's at the other end of the pitch and they're up at the other end just hanging about and waiting on the ball to come when there's no defenders, then do score. And we say he's just hatching up the other end. Meanwhile, everyone else is breaking their ass to get the ball back. So, but look, the game has changed now. There's very few players getting away with that. The scrutiny of the players in every position is so intense. No go anymore. You got to do your bit.
Great to have you back, Brian.
Thank you. Good day, Nathan. Thanks a lot.